Il y avait presque un bingo. Moi, je sais. Juste pour dire au live sur le dernier, je vais voir si. Ok, au pire, je vais. Ok, merci. Désolé.
De rien. Donc, bienvenue à notre réunion du...
Welcome to our meeting. It's our public meeting, July 6th public meeting. We will start our meeting with our moment of reflection and our territorial acknowledgement. We are gathered today on the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, whose ancestors entered into treaties of peace and friendship with the British Crown in the 18th century. So, point 2, we do have quorum, Mr. Clerk. Yes, thank you. Everyone is there. Under item 3, declaration of conflict of interest, would anybody have a conflict of interest to declare related to an item on the agenda? No. So we will move to approval of the agenda. Councillor Després moves. I do move. I so move. Moved by Joël, seconded by Councillor Germaine Galland. All those in favor shall say aye. On contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. So, fifth item, it is the minutes of the regular meeting for June 22nd. Moved by Councillor Joël Després, seconded by Councillor Mario O'Brien. All those in favor shall say aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. So we do have a presentation. I'd like to welcome Stephanie here. We'd like to welcome to our public meeting to present our financial statements up to 31 December 2025. The floor is yours. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Lots of familiar faces. Also, some new faces that I perhaps haven't met in previous years. As Madame Mayor mentioned, my name is Stephanie Cormier. I'm an associate at Doane Grant Thornton, and we are your auditors. We've been your auditors for several years, so I know that there are some of you who have seen my face a few times. So this year we worked with Monica, and we completed the audit of the financial statements up to December 31st, 2025. We're going to be presenting 2 documents. I'll do the first document in English, and I'll do the second document in French. So to start, Stephanie, which document are we starting with? I'll start with the first page. It says Présentation annuelle des états financiers audités.
Okay, en anglais.
In English or in French? It's not the detailed financial statement. It's the summary. I'll just show it at the same time. That's the one? Okay. So you just need to put say next slide when you're ready. So also in your package, you've received the detailed financial statement. In the detailed financial statement, there are notes. It's 30 pages long. This is a summary of the financial statement. We found that over the past 2 years that it's a bit, it's less heavy to go through it for a council. But if you do have questions related to financial statements, you can ask those questions as well.
So I'll do this piece in English. So if we go on that first page, the first point, we're looking at annual surplus. Again, when we're looking at, I think when you look at financials with Monica all throughout the year, you look at the local government level, and then we come in and we do some what we call PSAB adjustment, which is your public sector accounting rules. So we do some adjustments to get them to basically an annual surplus under PSAB. So sometimes the numbers look a little bit different than what you're used to seeing at every meeting because you're looking at a local government. So looking at the annual surplus for PSAB, you had a budget of 1.8 million, and your actual result was close to 1.98 million. Compared to 3.9 last year. So a bit of a decrease of about 1.9 compared to prior year. Looking at your general operating local government, so that would be the numbers I think that you're most familiar with seeing. At your local government level, you had an annual surplus of 1.4. And at the water operating local government level, you had an annual surplus of about 201,000. Number 2, we're looking at long-term debt. So that's note number 6 in your detailed financial statements. So you had an opening balance of your debt of 15.8 million. You had 2 new debentures this year that totaled 15.2 million. You repaid some long-term debt for about 1.4 million to give you an ending balance of long-term debt of about 29.5 million. The next point, number 3, shows, I think, a lot where that debt, the projects that debt went to support. So tangible capital assets, so that's note 8 in your financial statements. So your opening net book value was 75.6 million. So your net book value is your original cost for your asset less the accumulated depreciation that is recorded for accounting. So, if you have vehicles or a building or a lot of stuff other than land is depreciated, so it loses value over time for accounting purposes. So that's your net book value. So 75.6 was your opening. You added some additions of about 16.4 million during the year, which a lot of the new debt would have funded those additions. Out of that 16.4, about $2 million was spent on Calder Street, 4.6 million on Bro Bridge Street, about 5.8 on the fire hall, and the other 4 million on other various additions. You had disposals of about 50,000 and then amortization for the year of 3.9, which gives you a closing net book value of about 88 million compared to 75 last year. If we go on the next page, we have some details on the receivables. So that's note 3 in your financial statements. At December 31st, 2025, you had accounts receivables of about 860,000, water receivables of about 978,000, capital receivables of 392, and then sales tax receivables of about 248,000 to make up a total receivables of close to 2.5. Looking at prior year, the main decrease there is your capital receivables. A lot of the times that's just the timing of when the funding comes in. You're going to see on the next point, number 5, it's the same thing for your capital payables. Your capital payables were a lot higher last year, but again, just the timing of when the money, if there's government funding, when that comes in compared to your year end and when the payments are made. So looking at payables and accruals, which is note 5 in your financial statements, there was 2.5 million of accounts payables, 2.1 million of capital payables. Your employee benefit obligation was 334,000, and then you had some accrued interest on long-term debt of about 53,000 to give you payables of about 5 million. For the statement of cash flow, so that's page 6 on your statements. The net cash provided by operating activities was 4.4 million. So that would be like all of your operations, all of your operating activities. Your net cash used for capital activities, so that's the acquisition of, mainly the acquisition of tangible capital assets. So cash used for capital activities was 16.2 million. The net cash provided or used for financing activities, so that would be any debt repayment with the new debt that you've received as well. So that was 11.7 million. So if you total up those 3 numbers, you have a decrease in your cash of 86,000. So you had about 9.79 of opening cash at January 1st, and then your closing cash was about 9.71. Going to the next page, We have some details on your reserve funds, which is Schedule 4 in your financial statements. So here we have some details on your, basically like your opening reserves and then the allocations, the interest accumulation for the year, and what the ending surplus is. So looking at your general operating reserve, you had about $1,069,000. You have a limit on your operating reserve. So your general operating and your water operating have limit. Your capital reserve have no maximum. The maximum for your operating was $1,079,000. So you are within, I think Monica and I actually talked just to make sure that we were all good at the end of December. So that's 5% of your budgeted expenditures of the previous year. So you got to stay within that limit. So boat reserves were within the limit at the end of December. So general operating reserve close to 1.1 million, general capital reserve of 3.6, your water operating reserve of 113,000, and then your water capital reserve of close to 3.6 as well. So that gives you a total reserve of 8.3 and an increase in your reserve of about 1.5 million. Next, we're looking at debt ratios. So your general operating debt ratio was 10.1% compared to 6.9 last year. So again, there was, about $15 million of new debt this year, which does contribute to an increase there. Water operating was 18.2 compared to 17.8 the year before. And we do have a note here just that the general rule is that the general operating ratio should be below 20%, and for water it should be below 35%. So yeah. Next page. We just have a few graphs here. So this is just showing trends for the last 10 years. This is showing your expense trends. So all broken up by sector. So your transportation, recreation, general government, protection, environment, and water services. So that's just kind of showing trends for the last 10 years. The main increase that we see here is transportation services. I think there's been a lot of focus on roads and transportation, and the main increases there would be like salary increases and interest on long-term debt in that sector. Next page is key financial trends. So here we just kind of look at the trend for the last 10 years for total expenses in blue and your warrant of assessment in red. So we do see that the two are increasing. They're quite increased. They're kind of going together. There's a lot of investment in infrastructure, and with the growing debt and the growing debt servicing costs as well. And it's just so just kind of noting those trends here. The last page is some other key financial trends. So here we're looking at net debt, long-term debt, and bank loans. In purple, we do see the long-term debt spiking, but again, that's that new $15 million of new loans. And yeah, so that is a summary of those. Maybe what I'll do is I'll go through the report, or did you guys want to do questions first on this one? Or if so, I might just do overall financial comments, or. Okay, maybe I'll just do a few financial comments in case I answer some of your questions, and then we can look at that. So I think, looking at your financials, I think the town of Shediac has experienced significant growth in, population, construction, assessment. Your construction permits have reached record highs in recent years. So, it's really a growing a growing town for sure. The financial statements reflect like a municipality that continues to grow. We for sure there needs to be an eye kept on whether expenses are increasing in support of growth and future service delivery rather than simply keeping up with inflation as well. Like there's been, I think everybody is experiencing inflation increases as well. So the town of Shediac appears to be balancing a growing assessment base, increasing infrastructure demands, and expanded service responsibilities as well. So going forward, like maintaining strong reserves, managing capital investments as well, and supporting growth should remain important for the town. So overall, I think there's strong and stable financial results. When we look at your financial statements, we'll go through that in the report here, but we do have what we call a clean audit report. So there's no modified opinion or anything on our audit report. We didn't come across any adjustments or issues with the financial reporting of your financial statements. So things that we look at when we do your audit that we haven't found any issues with is, around accumulated surpluses. We look at your debt ratios, your reserve balances, your liquidity, and your ability to meet obligations. So when we look at your numbers, and we did not note significant issues there. So we can maybe take some questions on this, and then we can go through the detailed report afterwards.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not great at finance. When you said that there was a maximum reserve for water, let's say, 117,000, where does that figure come from? That is 5%. It's a calculated amount. Let's say, basically, you take the 5% from the 2025 budget for expenses. It's the same calculation for all municipalities. It's a standard calculation that the local government has put in place. And so it would be, so like water, I can't make the calculations on the fly like that, but basically the 117 would be 5% of the total amount of the budget. That's the max that we can keep in reserve for operating reserves. Yes, you have maximums on your operating reserves. There's no maximum for capital reserves, but for operating, there are. So why would we keep it there? What's your question? So why would we leave the water reserve there? If we break or down or something, it can be something unforeseen. I'll give you an example. At the arena, for example, the dehumidifier gave out. We could either draw from general capital reserve, you replacing an asset, or you can take it from the operational if you'd like. Now compare that to, let's say we had a bad winter, it snowed every day, we removed snow every day, paid a lot more overtime than we had foreseen. We can only take operational reserve because we haven't invested in capital. That gives you an example of what we could use it for and the flexibility that we have with both reserves. So we could use the $113,000 actually for the water system that we put in. That's an example, right? The system that put in the manganese, we could have, yeah. Chances are we would have used the capital one. You're using it for capital. It's a tangible asset. Thank you. I understand. Great. Are there any other questions? Sorry. No, that's perfect. Let's continue with the presentation. So the second document, I will do it in French. It's the right report. Yeah, I'll do it in French. I'll do that one in French.
Wait.
Is that the right one? Third one.
Ça fait que c'est notre rapport.
So this is our report. It's a report that we prepare for the municipal council. It's a summary of our audit strategy and then the outcomes. What's the goal of the report is to have an open dialogue and have a discussion with you and to make you aware of the procedures and risks we identified, outcomes, etc. So let's say we go to page 1. We have
Now, if you look at what we did with Monica and her team, we did our work, and in terms of deliverables today, we are presenting the consolidated audited financial statements and also the strategy that we want to go through. Now, the two main things are the approval of the financial statements, which will take place here at the council tonight, and also signing the letter of affirmation that Monica just gave me. So then we can check that one off the list. As the independence, there hasn't been any change concerning the independence further to the communication of May 5, 2025. Now, as to next page, we can't look at every transaction. We'd be here for 2 years if we were looking at every single transaction. So what we do is we designed the audit based on the most significant risks or material risks. So let's go through these risks that we identified, and there are risks in anything you do. Otherwise, there wouldn't be anything for us to do. So for the town of Shediac, this is the first risk has to do with risk of fraud arising from separation of division of powers. And this, I always mention it every year. The finance department, for example, it has fewer people now. So when a person is able to do the approval and cover all aspects of an expense, then that's where we have a risk of fraud. So we always look at whether at what was published in the newspapers. We look at the accounting estimates, the suppliers. We match the addresses of the suppliers with the addresses of the employees who have access to the finance system, see if there's any conflicts of interest or fraud that could have taken place, and then we confirm that we haven't found any such thing with these. The next risk that we invited has to do with payables. Payables could have been underestimated. Expenses could be higher than expected. So our procedures, so we look at all the controls. We do a test to assess, to determine the conformity of the call for tenders process. We make sure that that process was always followed correctly. And we also do look for payables that might not have, payables that payments that were made after the end of the year, to make sure that these were not something that should have been included in the figures of the end of year figures. And we confirm that we didn't find any such anomalies. If you go to the next page, the next one has to do with employee compensation. That's the risk, and the risk relates to sick leave obligations at year end, because this is a complex estimate which requires actuarial assistance. So that's why we consider it a risk. This year, you have a new, you have a new actuarial report every 3 years. So that's in December 2026. So they always do an extrapolation. So there's no new report this year, but The estimations or the estimates, the assumptions are the same as last year. And your obligation was 334,061 as at December 31, as compared with 300,600 in 2024. We look at the report that was done in 2023 with the extrapolations to 2025, and we didn't see any anomalies there either. Next one is water services revenue. So the revenue and accounts receivable associated with water services could be invalid. That's the risk that this one concerns. Water receivables amounted to 1,206,000 at December 31st, 2025, compared to 1,224,000 as at December 31, 2024. This amount includes receivables approximately 906,000 as compared with 905,000 in 2024. There's also an allowance for doubtful accounts recorded against those receivables of approximately 227,000. As to the procedures, well, we look at the internal controls, so we look at subsequent receipts for accounts receivables, take a sample to see if they were collected, and we look at the ratios. We recalculate the overall water revenues to and we look at the rates in terms of the number of citizens to recalculate the revenues, and we did not identify any misstatement while completing audit procedures. Next page. We have local government laws. Now, why is there a risk? First of all, funds for operating loans are limited to 4% of the town's operating budget. And to fund water distribution, that's also limited to 50% water services. In 2025, the town complied with these restrictions. I could send a report to Monica. So that does comply with the restrictions. And interfund loans, you have the Guide to Municipal Financial Reporting, which requires that short-term interfund loans be repaid in the following fiscal year. So we looked at the amounts payable and between the funds, and we make sure that they're in compliance with this requirement. Water distribution costs. Water distribution charges are in conformity to the limitations, and we also have disclosure of reserve transfers. That's new over the last 3 years. And now the new Local Governments Act requires disclosure of council resolutions for any transfer to reserve funds. So now what did we do? We recalculated the established limits. We reviewed disclosure of resolutions concerning reserve transfers to Schedule 4 in the financial statements and did not identify any misstatement in that regard. Next one, segment disclosures. This is as required by the Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards. This is segment disclosure. So we reviewed the information we included in the financial statement and did not find any misstatement there either. Reserve funds, that's Schedule 4. The town the following reserve balances, which we looked at we reviewed. So it's a bit repetitive, but we have the total was 8.3 million. We recalculated the limits that we discussed earlier, and we did not identify any problems. The town did conform to the restrictions concerning limits as regards to the general fund or the general reserve. Next page, adjustments, uncorrected misstatements. We did not find any adjustments needed to be made or to report. No non-trivial unadjusted misstatements to report. We always calculate a certain threshold of triviality or materiality, and there was none. There were none that reached that threshold. If that does occur and they're non-material, we're still going to track them to make sure that they stay that way. And so, but there were nothing that needed correcting either. And next page. When we talk about other reportable matters here, little repetition here. We talked about one of the risks around the separation of tasks, and or here we're talking about internal control. We put the accent on financial controls here. We don't express an opinion on the effectiveness of internal controls. That remains the responsibility of the management to make sure that there is good controls in place in supervision by the council. So in terms of control deficiency, we also have the separation of powers or duties. There are compensatory controls in place, such as the monthly review by the Council of Financial Situation, comparison of real results with budgets, the fact that there are two signatures on checks. But there are some recommendations that we would like to look at strengthening things, compensatory controls that need to be strengthened. If there's no capacity to, it's not always possible to add people to your finance team so that everything is entirely segregated. But sometimes what you can do is you can have compensatory controls or compensating controls to help mitigate this risk in a different way. So we have a couple of recommendations here. Semi-annual review by management of the vendor master file, looking at the accounts receivable, quarterly report about accounts receivable, list of tasks completed by the Director of Finance when financial statements are presented to Council, and also restricted system access for each employee based on the tasks that they're supposed to accomplish. Also, we want to talk about the risk assessment process. These are 2 points which have come back from last year. The town does not have a documented risk assessment process, so we recommend putting such a documented process in place that would enable risk identification. Next page. I want to confirm again, as regards independence of our members, we have a rigorous process where we continually monitor and maintain our independence of the town of Joliette. The second point has to do with donated assets. It has been noted that the town has no process to record assets donated by developers that are accepted by the town. According to discussions with your team, your engineers, approximately 260 linear meters that the town accepted from developers in 2025 of street. So the town basically takes possession of a street or some division. The impact on the financial statements look at the public accounts, would be an increase to tangible capital assets and an increase also to donated assets revenue. So we can resume this discussion. I know that there's been a lot of turnover in the finance department and also engineering, and which would play about 90% of the role of what we need to put in place, but it's definitely something that we should discuss, and we can help you with what we've seen. We've seen processes that are being used by other municipalities, which are working well, so that could be a way for you to proceed. Next page, technical updates, highlights. We identified the accounting standards, which could have an impact with the new accounting standards that will be implemented in the next financial year. And we can have some discussions with Monica to discuss how that will affect you, if at all. And also, I want you to know there are no major changes to our assurance standards that have an impact on the December 31st, 2025 consolidated financial statements audit. Now we have Appendix A, draft engagement letter. Sorry, let's go to Appendix B. You received a signed copy of this draft management representation letter this evening. Appendix C is a draft independent auditor's report. There were two empty pages, and that's blank pages, and that's where this report would go. And the final report, and this, as I mentioned, it is a clean audit report. There's no nothing material to note, which leads us to the end of my presentation. That brings us to the end of my presentation. Any questions? Any questions? That's a lot of details and a lot of figures. No questions? Yes, please. Thank you. There are a couple of items that Stephanie mentioned concerning things that might be considered identification documents. Should the committee discuss that and bring some matters? Yeah, I'm looking at Monica and she's smiling. When we hired Monica, I said we got to evolve in our internal accounting practices. We still use, paper, pencil. We're maybe not fully up to date on technology. And so we are currently doing an internal assessment of the internal mechanism so that we are more functional and we have the more leading edge technology. We are in discussions with our current supplier. We are doing an analysis to try and figure out what we might need. And if that has a budgetary impact, well, we would certainly include that in the budgeting process. And if there's an impact this year, we would arrange to present a plan if we have to migrate our system to a new system. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, any other questions, Councillor Pommier? Yes, Councillor Duaro. This is the, you said that we were in debt by a certain amount, and now it looks like, when I look at the draft, it looks like 37 million for the level of debt. So if you compare with 29, that's the purple line. Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, okay. So the violet line, that's your long-term debt. The one you were seeing was net debt. That's different concept. If you look at the financial statements, page 3, you'll see what your net debt is. It's your financial assets plus your liabilities. So whose debts, payables, bank loans, and so on. That's right. Oh, okay. That's what gives me that other figure. Okay, I understand. Thank you, Councillor Duaro. Okay, I've got a little question. I read the final statements, the details, and on page 4, we have interest. We have the figures there, but we only have a budget of 75,000. Oh no, that's an error that we made in 2025. We mentioned this. We had this when we prepared the budget in 2024. We would. When we realized that when we saw the real figures, we realized that we undershot. So this was an adjustment, a significant adjustment to the budget, because the real figure did not at all correspond to the amount budgeted. Thank you. That answers my question. No other questions?
Conseiller, vous
Oui,
pouvez-
merci.
Merci,
Merci
bien
pour
beaucoup.
parler de la dette.
Go ahead, and thank you. Speaking about the debt, Leo,
On est encore sous le cible de 20%. Il n'y a pas quelque chose de
we're
formel
under the
quelque part
target of
d'aller plus que
20%.
20%. Puisqu'on est rendu,
We're not allowed to go above that, right? What's the status in the first presentation, point A? That's the debt ratios. So you have, or the indebtedness ratios, you have general operating 10.1. That's the one.
Ton general operating
Uh,
à 10.1, puis ton water operating à 18.
Water operating 18.2.
Je veux dire, le general rule,
So,
c'est pas une limite.
la règle générale,
quelque chose, là, mais
the general
actuellement,
rule
c'est 20%, soit à 10.1,
uh,
puis 30%,
is 20%, but you're at 10.1 and 18.2. So that's 10.1 is good, in fact.
Tu me réfères à Monica?
Can I refer to Monica? Monica, are there any debt items that are coming up, becoming payable?
Well, next year, we'll be seeking out some new debentures, but the debt ratio with the province, when we go ask for money for the province, they foresee that we'll hit the 21% in 2 years. But this year, the debenture that we sought out this year, we didn't go seek out the full amount. So the ratio that the province is planning is higher than what will be in reality, actually. And the ratio that we're presenting in the financial statement is today's reality. Next year, we're supposed to be at around 17 with what was upcoming. So that was in the presentation that we got before the meeting, and there's other major projects. It's going to go up. We're going up faster than we're going down. We're having those discussions regularly. We go to the borrowing commission, lending commission. At the start, it was says, "Why don't we reduce your debt? Why don't you reduce your debt?" We have a plan to manage our debt. Just right now, pardon me, it's a bit of a struggle between providing the renewal of existing infrastructure and the creation of new infrastructure. With the population, it's a growing population. We're no different than other municipalities that have experienced that phenomenon. We foresee that we'll go past the 20%. We do have a management plan. That's where the 5-year plan comes into play. That's where the asset management plan comes into play. We've already shared during the budget process. We're being honest. There's some projects where we need partners, or otherwise we can't do them. We have a plan. I would say, is our debt ratio going up? Yes, absolutely. With all of the mechanisms that we've put in place, with the growth that we've experienced, we are able to manage it before talking about being below the long-term threshold. I like the word investment. We're investing in our citizens. Thank you. Under the detailed financial statements, note 6, page 13, there's a detail of all the debentures that are outstanding, if you will, as of December. It puts the date where they're due. So if you want to see the details on a debenture by debenture basis, there's detail for each. It tells you what year they're coming due. Inaudible. That's all? No more questions? Thank you for your presentation. Thank you. If I might add, I'd like to thank you for receiving us, and we thank you for continuing to entrust us with your confidence. We really appreciate your services. And great thanks to Monica's team. It's always a pleasure to come and deal. You have a great finance team and a great culture, good people. So we do thank you. And see you next year. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. So let's now go to the next item, peddlers and traveling vendors. It's a municipal bylaw that dates back to 2013. In 2004, pardon me, it's under item 13. We had a directive over the past years that came from the municipal council that stipulated that in a majority way we weren't receiving the food trucks or peddlers, people who would be coming with sort of rolling carts to sell things in town. We did receive a request for a food truck. The man decided to withdraw his demand, but we had already started the process with the Chamber of Commerce and downtown Shediac Centreville to get their opinion. They did share some letter with us. To summarize, we asked if they were in favor of receiving that type of business, that type of commercial operations, and both are generally saying no. They see it as unfair competition to business people who will pay taxes in town. The goal tonight to bring this before you is to get some directives from council. We know that we'll ultimately need to revise that municipal bylaw, but we want to at least know your opinion, if you do have one, on what sort of direction we should be taking up in the next few months. Do we bring those requests before you, or should we refuse them directly when you receive them? Be it a food truck or whatever. Does the council want to receive those requests, or should we refuse them automatically, saying that the council's directive will be the directives that you give us? Madam Councilor Duaro, there's a hot dog cart that's been parked in a trailer. So there'd be a conflict of interest if I were to talk about this, because it wasn't on the agenda that we talked about. So I didn't. You're declaring a conflict of interest, Councilor Duaro? It wasn't noted, so I will remove myself. We take note of that. That's great. Inaudible. So we'll continue. Councilor Arsenault, thank you, Madam Mayor. So we're discussing the food truck situation. The sun rises for everyone. So those who are concerned, I do feel for them. But competition, it was said tonight from the people in the YMCA, competition is, where do you see only one restaurant, not much business? When you see McDonald's, Burger King, and Arby's all in the same corner, they all seem to be busy. So why can't we allow someone with a food truck or hot dog stand? Well, here's a good example, business-wise, like at the Pointe Chaîne Wharf, where everyone goes, all the young people go swimming. Those young people, they're not going to go eat this at the sandwich bar. They're not going to pay $100 at the sandbar. I think it would be fine if a mother and a father were to drop off their kids to go swimming right next to the Pointe Chaîne Wharf, give them $10, go get a hot dog and a chip in the pop. It's not going to hurt the sandbar business. Those kids are not. We're not going to go eat there, no matter what. It's the same thing as a hot dog stand or a food truck. A couple, myself, my wife, and myself, we travel here and there. If we don't feel like, I won't name the restaurant's name, but we have some big fine restaurants in Shediac. Sometimes just feel like having a hamburger. I have no problem providing permits, a license to someone who wants to start a food truck. And if somebody has a business in Shediac and they're worried that a food truck was going to put them out of business, they don't have a good business, because a food truck is not going to put anybody in business. That's my opinion. According to, if ever were to come to a vote, in my mind, I would support someone who would want to start a food truck or a hot dog stand in town. A long time ago, Dickie D Rice Cream, they would peddle around the streets. Do you think now that Dickie D Ice Cream, do you think that they were putting businesses out of business? Well, that's an example. The sun rises for everyone. Somebody wants to start a little business. I support that 100%. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Councillor Boudreau, with all due respect, Emile, I'm completely against that. Some people pay taxes to see the sun rise. We have to protect those businesses. So before going forward, I have to see how it affects things. I'm part of the Chamber of Commerce. I live in downtown. I'd really need to see what giving those permits to food trucks would mean. One question would be the permit. I've participated in food truck festivals. Some people come. Do you have to go to a special event? It looks like Julie's department organizes special nights, and we let them in Parc Pascal Poirier for the weekend. The agreement, the bylaw that we have right now, does that allow that? It's not mentioned. The only thing that we have been doing since I came with the town, it's only been 3 years. When we have food trucks that would come during an event that the town organizes, there we allow it. How can I put it? Let's say outside associations. Let's say there's an event, actually Canada Day, for example. It happens quite often. You'll correct me if I'm wrong, Julie. I think that there were Saveur du Monde that would come. We invite different food trucks to present different types of food. That has happened. So we're flexible. We have a bit of flexibility, but generally speaking, we already had the directive to say no, that we don't host them. And we simply refuse the request. For anything, if it comes up, we vote. I'll respect the council's vote. Thank you. Inaudible. Well, just to add to that, the vendors who would come to events, to come as part of festival events, for example, is something that we wouldn't find in the downtown. We don't want to have any competition. We don't give ice cream, for example. There's lots of ice cream places in downtown. We won't compete with anything that's already in downtown. Thank you, Julie. I have a question. May I ask a question? If we can answer yes, go ahead. If we receive requests, are there strategic locations? Does the vendor need to identify where they're going to park, for example? For now, no. We've never received a request that was approved. We would not even bring requests to the council. That was because the directive had been that way. So let's say it were to happen, perhaps it might have to perhaps be outside of downtown. Whatever. It also comes back to the point, if there's a lot of discussion, we might have to revise the bylaw and change things. It's a bylaw that dates back to, it's 23 years old. The permit that is requested is $100 to operate, which should probably be increased, I would think, perhaps something more substantial. But that's my opinion as a person who would work on the bylaw. Thank you. Councillor Janis. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm on both sides of the fence here. I'm on Councillor Arsenault's side and Councillor Boudreau. I think there's a happy medium here. I think we can look at the bylaw and say, what should we do as a happy medium? There can be someone not have a food truck all year, but how could we integrate that part? And how can we collect money from those people that would perhaps replace what our taxpayers pay? There might be a happy medium. Not open it to everyone, but it might be interesting to have a little program where they apply before a certain date for certain activities, and the council goes forward and approves or not, or let's say 5 in the summer or 10 in the summer. I think there's an opening. I think we should be open to perhaps bring in new things. It's like Councillor Arsenault was saying, you don't feel like having pizza, you don't feel like having chicken, you don't feel like having... They'll go someplace else. If they know that there's a food truck in Grand Barachois with something different, I've driven to Grand Barachois to do that. without putting everybody in competition and disturbing people who do most of their business in the summer. I think there's a happy medium to be found. If I might add another point, the only moment where we granted permission was business came from regional businesses. Like, for example, a business on Main Street that would say, we want to bring this weekend, we want to bring in a stand that makes some pizza. We don't make pizza, but we want to invite them. They're coming, we're paying them. People can eat and all that. That was allowed. We've done that, and it's happened at other places as well. But it's business people who already pay taxes who made all those steps. Those are the only times where that's happened. I just want to stipulate that. That's great. Thank you. Councillor Després. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The director of community life said that we had events in the past where you would bring in a vendor if we had a type of business, that type of business on Main Street, like for example, ice cream. Would it be the same case if we granted permits to food trucks anywhere in Shediac? Well, it's up to the council. It's up to the will of the council. Councilor Després, if the will of the council, municipal council, is to at least try to protect some businesses in the downtown, there's ways of doing that. Be it through zoning, that could allow us to do it. We're zoned in a certain way downtown. It's general business, but it's really for the downtown. There are taxes that are collected that are higher, probably even downtown, more so downtown than elsewhere. That might be a way of doing it. If there's a will and council to find solutions for that, we can find solutions. I have the same position of Janice. I do like Emil's comments, and I also understand Councillor Boudreau's concerns that we don't want to impact our local businesses. But it'd be nice if we find a nice happy medium. Thank you, Councillor Després. I have a question. Do we have lots of requests every year or in the spring, or it's because we know that we don't accept it? It's always the same when that comes back. He wanted to sell clothing. He wanted to set up certain spots. We generally try to send him to businesses that have spaces that he can rent. That way he can at least have a business from which to operate, not just a trailer. Food trucks is a bit new, but we've had people come outside, Moncton, Dieppe, and many places where they can get a license. But generally, we simply refuse. Well, we had received directive from council. If I want to bring a food truck to Shediac and I want to set up, and we let them set up. So you ask for a full permit for the full season? No. If I remember correctly, it's a very specific period. And all requests in the current municipal bylaw should be brought before municipal council, irrespective of who it is. All permits have to be brought before council. The council votes on it and decide yes or no if it will be allowed. Pardon me. So those food trucks don't need a permit to go to the Sunday market at Parc Pascal Poirier. On the Sunday market, they have to buy, well, at least reserve the space with the Sunday market. That's why they're there. So a food truck or the guy who sells clothing or the person who sells paintings, they pay the market. That is allowed because the market is subcontracted the town to do that. If you'll allow, Madam Mayor, or Your Worship, just to add some clarity here, we do receive requests, and we want to have a sense from the council. Do you want to continue have them brought before a council as the bylaw says, or perhaps we look at modernizing the bylaw with the existing conditions that exist in the market? If it's a question of modernizing the bylaw, we can work and see what other municipalities are doing, see what other jurisdictions are doing, and we can provide you with a recommendation. And after that recommendation, and council can debate it to tweak it. It's just to open the door a bit, to see if you're open to that, or if you want to maintain status quo. That's what we'd like to know. That's great. Thank you. Councillor Steves.
Just to kind of clarify, the bylaw that's in place now is just for the old
Yep.
boundaries of Shediac?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
So
Thank-
somebody could go to the corner and Gibbler's
Yeah.
Corner and put a food truck there. And
Yeah.
Nothing would restrict them.
Or Point du Chêne.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I just wanted to clarify. Thanks.
You're welcome. Next, Conseillère Janice Cormier.
Councillor Janice Cormier, thank you.
There's a lobster food truck in town. Have we noticed that or?
Yeah, that's oui. C'est justement cette personne-là
Oui.
qui a retiré
Yes,
sa
it's that
demande.
person that withdrew their request. Yes. And maybe it's best I not talk. Yes, generally we receive that request. We're aware. We're following to see where the situation, to see where they're headed, and we'll see what happens. We're waiting on a directive from council to see what to do. Thank you, Councillor Cormier. Councillor Emile Arsenault. Thank you, Your Worship. Just quickly. So this weekend at the Sunday market, there are people who sell flowers. There's a gentleman who sells picnic tables. So that will affect Kent Building Supplies. Will that affect Kent Building Supplies? The person sells flowers will affect the flower shop. I would like to stipulate though that those people reserve with the Sunday market. They pay an amount to be there. It's that. Councillor O'Brien. Yes, my only comment is if we were to revise that bylaw, check with municipalities of our size to see what they're doing, because you see food trucks everywhere. We could provide you with a recommendation on the rates, approval systems. The policy right now is where everything has to go for council. Other municipalities put in your permit, there's a fee. Yes, you can operate between such a time, and we might do the enforcement with our bylaw enforcement officers if they're not in compliance. But if council wants to continue to provide approvals, the only challenge that we have, yes, I want a food truck on the weekend because I'm driving through and there's no council meeting that's scheduled. There are some unforeseen factors that lead to, well, here's an example. There's a soccer tournament this weekend. Maybe they want to have a food truck come to act as a mobile canteen. I don't know. I'm just using that as an example.
It can be last minute, and we might be limiting possibilities because there's no council meeting planned. So maybe I get the sense that the consensus is that you would like us to review it and then provide you with a recommendation. Do some research and come back with some ideas for you. Is that it? Yeah. Thank you. So,
Councillor McEnroy.
I guess Eve's summation there just covered my point. I was just going to make a motion to that effect, but
yeah, we don't need a
there's a
motion. It's just a.
All right. Okay, thank you.
I'm on board with that.
All right. Conseillère Cormier.
I just recommend that we stay status quo. We follow notre arrêté procédural pour cet été. Puis
We should
l'année
follow
prochaine,
our procedures for this summer, and then next year we can look at the modernization of this next year, right? Because the summer is already here. We wouldn't be able to make it in time for the summer anyway. That's right. So let's go on to the next item, which is as to the administration, report about the fire service. I don't know if you had a chance to look at this. Maybe we can answer some questions if you have any. This is a report from the month of June presented by the fire chief. If there are no questions, then we'll go on to the next point. Next, this is a report from the CAO. Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to go on to my report. First of all, I would like, you can see that the Festival de Shediac is underway, and began last Saturday and goes until Sunday, July 12th. And our staff are very involved in the operations of the festival, whether it's labor, our summer students, our recreation department employees who are working with these different programs, with the different events that are taking place. So this is a very busy time, and we do this over and above our usual workload. Summer camps also began last week. That was the first week, and young people kids are all very excited. This is all mostly taking place inside of school buildings, so it's pretty hot, but they're all coming out with smiles on their face. As to the industrial park, last meeting we talked, where we had planned the final purchase for June 30th, but we had to delay the purchase. There was a few legal components that we were not able to complete by that time, mainly the operating permit for water and sewer, which is under a different ministry than transportation and infrastructure. There's also the registration of certain of the boundaries of certain lots. We didn't get that done yet either, so we postponed this to July 31st. We expect that we may be able to finish the purchase before then. There are weekly meetings with the ministry and our team to try and to wrap those items up as fast as we can. But it is imminent, but unfortunately we couldn't make it for June 30th for last week. As to the strategic planning committees, if you were appointed to one of the four foundational committees, you started to have see meetings appear on your calendar. Some have already taken place, others will take place. There's the goal is to have 2 or 3 meetings this year and have them almost around every 2 months. So if you haven't yet had those meetings, then that's because we haven't confirmed all the dates yet. But if you have, then that means that the dates were confirmed. So keep your eye on your calendar. Maison Pascal Poirier, last meeting, there was a resolution passed. There's a draft of the two agreements that is being written. We're doing a review of those 2 agreements. The goal is to bring them to the council for final approval at the next meeting in August. Presuming if we were able to do it faster, we would hold a special meeting, but for now, it's planned for August. As to the recreational center, we are continuing our evaluations, our collaboration on the feasibility study. The consultation has been completed, as was mentioned, and we will be presenting to you the possibility of expanding the scope of the feasibility study to include potentially the YMCA, which could be a partnership which could take place. I also can share with you that we sent a letter recently to the province of New Brunswick, the minister responsible for SCR and the federal minister as well, and the local MP, Dominique Leblanc, concerning our intention to develop a project, but also we shared our intentions as to the application for partnership. It's important to put this on the radar so that they are aware, so that they are briefed as to how far we've come in the process. We're going to step up our discussions with the provincial and federal partners this project so that we can get financial partners for that project. For the net zero strategy, you may be wondering what our Tom Kaniak is doing in place of Tina. Tina, he's a project manager for the net zero project. I can talk about some outreach if you go to the market on Sunday, you'll see information on the social media. We're encouraging people to fill out the survey to give us an idea of how we can plan the next steps. But if you see them doing, stop and encourage people to fill out the survey. Also, we are going to present to you a study that we want to do on electrification of the municipal fleet. This afternoon, we also have the privilege to hold, we had the privilege to hold a meeting with Siemens. They were here. There was the mayor, Tom, and I participate in this meeting. Different provincial partners were there as well. So it was a good meeting. And we had a discussion about the initiatives that we are involved in, but also to get an update on the projects taking place in the region. Now, we're continuing the invoicing our initiatives to recover outstanding accounts. We told you last time that there were some owners where there was an interruption of service, but we were able to reach agreements with them, payment agreements, so that they could keep their services. Also, tennis, pickleball have resurfacing. That is not completed, but they are now usable. So I'm certain that those two groups are happy to be able to get back onto the field. As to the engineering project for the trunk line that you saw on Ohio Street, that's completed. They are now working from Main Street eastward, and there will be a point in time when we will jump out of that region and go to the field, to the path, but that will take place during the season. As to Breaux Bridge, that opening is planned for quite soon. The street is already paved, but if you walk down there, you will see that there is still some work that's being done on the sidewalks, for instance, putting in some new grass. We understand that the summer season has come and that there are a lot of people on the street, and we're going to work with the developer so that to try and get that street open to relieve the congestion caused by the work. And if there's work that has to be done, we will look at maybe closing the street only for short periods. But we're working with the suppliers to see whether we can get that street open earlier to alleviate the congestion. Now, the main South Cove project, you can see there's not as much work on Main Street, and that's by design because we want to get Breaux Bridge open. So the work has mainly focused on South Cove for now. So that causes less disruption, but there will be a point in time when we're going to have to go onto Main Street. Painting the street lines is almost completed. There's a little bit to do, but the lines are done, but the logos for the cyclists, for the bike paths, but it's basically almost completed and will be completed, weather permitting, shortly. If there's rain, well, that can always delay things, but apparently the weather's going to be good for a while, so it should be good. We're pretty confident that we can get that done soon. As to patching, yes, we hired a consultant, subcontractor to do the patching at the big intersections or major streets. There's 5 more streets that we were going to do internally, or in-house, but there are some streets that will be done this month, but others are planned for later because of their condition. But in July, we expect that the majority will be done. And then also after this patching, the team will get down to the sidewalks. We told you that we have a lot of work to do in-house, not to demolish, but to do preparatory work for the sidewalks. So once the patching is done, we will get to work on the sidewalks in September. The new sidewalks will be installed. So that completes my report. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you.
Excellent report.
CAO. Thank you. I appreciate the report. I see that this came out on Facebook. There's an important, a good document that tells you to go on the website to see what the contractors are doing. If you see that, those websites, it's hard to find that tab, so I wanted to let you know, but it's a good document that you prepared. I want to congratulate you on it. Thank you very much. We can look at. I wasn't able to find it directly on the web. Thank you, Councillor Boudreau. Thank you, CAO. We see there's a lot going on in town. So next item. Oh, yes. Thank you. You spoke about the pickleball court and the tennis courts. I have a question. I've been hearing about this for a year. What this bit about the outside rink. So what I can tell you about the outside rink is that we don't have any plan because the previous council made the decision that this would be a 3-season court. So there's a lot of different activities on the multi-sport fields, and not just hockey with basketball, Zumba. So currently there's no plan, long-term or short-term plan to convert or make renovations renovations plan to make this 4th season. I was just wondering how that this works. So I can only I like pickleball and tennis but the kids are playing the gadgets. But maybe this is something we could look at. I think it would be used. Well, I can say that we don't have it in the 5-year plan, so there would have to be a discussion according to the administration, because the 5-year plan directs our investment plans, the plans that will all the investments that we'll make. So it could become a discussion during the budgeting process if the council wants to look at modifying the current direction that we have taken, where it's the 3-season court. I think we owe it to the people who have contributed their tax money, because that's what we said it would be. We said it would be an outside rink. So I think that's why I think it should be an outside rink. It should be a 4-season rink. We should at least discuss that with them. Well, if we want to have a notice of motion so that for it to be debated at the next meeting, we can do that. But the recommendation is that it is a long-term discussion which will have an impact on the budget, whether short-term or long-term. And I think the best thing to do would be to, if the council wants to debate that, then we'll deliberate on that. We then have to, we can look at the tools. We have to get it into the tools that eventually dictate how we spend our money. I would like to at least get information. I'm good with a motion, but CAO, I would like you to speak I'd like us to speak to the engineers who are here. I think we've got sharp engineers who could pull this off. I think they could come up with a solution that wouldn't cost much money. Well, I think an analysis has been done. We have some analysis that has been done, and I would certainly recommend that that you make a meeting with us, and we'll discuss all of that with you. So that yes, we can set up a meeting to talk to the administration. We can give you all the information that you need on that subject. Thank you. I think it would be very good to have an outdoor ring in Shediac. Best days of my life were when I was 12, 13 years old, and we would go out, scrape the ice, and people would just put the hose on it at night. You know, there's no big deal. Pointe-aux-Chênes has a good thing going.
It's not perfect for our young kids of downtown Shediac to walk there because it's too far a walk. Because I remember we used to walk to the outdoor ring in Shediac next to where the multifunctional center is, as a matter of fact. So just saying that, those were the best days of my life, and I would hope that our kids of today could experience what I experienced when I was there playing hockey on that outdoor rink. So I will support that motion 100%.
C'est beau. Merci, conseiller Arsenault. Donc,
on reviendra.
On va revenir. Donc,
Thank you. We'll get back.
8.4 pour mon rapport de maire.
The mayor's report. Council members. We haven't received any? Did we receive nothing? Okay. No questions, nothing? Councillor Paul? Just a couple of updates. At the last meeting, we had the request for the scooters. Are we moving forward with that? We've had discussions with the owner. I don't have information to provide an update just yet, but I've been told that the file is progressing well in terms of respecting the council's will. You mentioned that there was a public awareness, education around speed and helmets. Will that be done? That was a discussion we've had with the supplier. Second is for the playground on Jocelyn Street. I might say for the public awareness raising campaign, it doesn't just cover the scooter company, it's for everybody. And on social media, there are lots of people are talking about it. We're starting this week. We did it last year as well. We published things that we published, the things we published do proper manners, where we should be going, how we should be riding. Those who are on e-bikes around if you're on e-bikes and you're around the town council table, we'll be watching you closely. For your question, sorry. For the playground on Jocelyn Street, we had a meeting on the lifestyle committee. At the next meeting, the next objective is that the president chair will do a follow-up, but there's been some development. Great. I'm hesitant to bring this before council, even with a motion. If we meet so infrequently in the summer, I think it's a file that really requires some haste. It's the access route to go to Albert Leblanc sports field behind Louis LGR school. I visit, but it's really bad condition. Tonight, even with a motion, I'm not asking to repair the field. I'm asking staff to say how much it could cost to make it safe. I know that there'll be some arguments that it's not our field. There'll be arguments that's not our responsibility. But if you look at, we invest in the soccer field, track and field. It's not our land. We've invested in a great project in Scoothook with that playground there. We invested on Main Street. We don't own that street. I dare say that 99% of our clients who go to the sports field, Albert Leblanc, and the community garden, and there are residents, there are young people. It's just to see if staff, administration, with Fred's team, with the expertise they have and the equipment that might improve that facility. If I can, if you will, if the council so wills it, I can make a motion. I don't like to do it last minute. I rarely do it, but given that if I bring the motion here at the end of August, the soccer season will be done, the community garden will be done, Mr. CAO, Mr. Clerk, I don't know if there's a resolution can be received at this point. We modified the bylaw. I think it would not be receivable. I can tell you that we're aware of that file. Some of you have spoken to us about it. Categorically, that field is not on municipal land. It is not a file that's on our radar. I can tell you that our objective is to put it on the radar of the both provincial MLAs in our region. We're going to have some discussions with the school district. The field belongs to the school district. Will they have the intention to invest? Do they have plans in the short term, long term? We don't know. We haven't had those discussions. But obviously, if the council wants to invest or they want us to look, it would take a council resolution. I've understood and I've not understood. With the bylaw that we modified, we need a notice of motion before we can make a motion. You can't, so we can't do anything until August. You can make a notice of motion so it can be debated in the month at the month of August, or you can ask to have a modification to the agenda. But we've already adopted the agenda. Are we meeting on the 14th? We're meeting Tuesday for a regular meeting. It's a special meeting. We could put it on the agenda if the council so desired. This is my point of view. It's not necessarily to repair it. It's just to study if we can repair it. Otherwise, anything can be repaired. I'll be clear. We can repair anything. But there are amounts that haven't been allocated to that renovation. We might be limited in how we can use things. We can use the budget, the operating fund, and that's money that we can use as cash. We probably could use the operating capital operating fund. It's not an asset that belongs to us. It's not an investment that we can make. We have to check on that possibility. I have a lot more questions and answers for you right now. But obviously, if the council would like us to do something, we'll respect the will of council. Minor soccer, they're really doing well. There's a great tournament. The community garden is great. And Judy's department, I'm not sure who handles the fields. Our fields are fantastic, but behind the school, the access is pitiful. And we're inviting people, we encourage community groups to put in place some programs. They're all volunteers. The access is there. If the access to the festival was there, we could act. The difference is that one we own and the other one we don't own. The argument, Mr. CAO, I have a hard time accepting that. We invest in infrastructure that we don't own. So the bike trail, just to see. So see where should I go with this? If it's the will of council, we can add it as an item for discussion at the special meeting next Tuesday. We can add it, yes. If there's something where we want to make a decision, we should have some figures to support. Is it too early? I think that inaudible. At the next meeting, we could have something. I think there's item 10, notice of motion. I think that Mr. Boudreau can advise us that be a notice of motion. And afterwards, we'll manage it from there. I think that we need to follow I have no problem with that. That's great. If you'll allow, is if we want to do a study, there's no decision made. The only decision that will, it's a decision to make a study, if you understand what I mean. So this summer, it won't be improved. At least it'll have it moved. You understand what I mean? Thank you, everyone. Those are my only points. Thank you, Councillor Arsenault. Yes, thank you, Your Worship. 2 items, 2 points. There's a citizen who's approached me, and he asked me if there would be a way where we could identify the right-of-ways leading to the water. When I say a right-of-way, I know that there's one on Riverside. I think that there are a few in Cornwall Point. It's basically people walking. It's nothing, those right-of-ways are not identified. They shouldn't be blocked. Because the person who spoke to me about this, I saw them, and I did see the right-of-way is blocked. The public right-of-way is blocked. And there's cars parked there. There's trailers parked there. That shouldn't be the case. It should be a right-of-way where people can take a walk to the water. I know that there are right-of-ways in town in several different locations. I know for sure that it's one at Cornwall Point and one on Riverside. And I wonder, could we identify, put up a sign so that people know they can have access or go walk or go swimming? Perhaps you can send the list of the places that you've received complaints around, and we could check. I can do that. To check all of the town's right-of-ways, we can, if we at least target those ones. So that's one point. Second and last point that I want to raise. I saw something that was a good thing. They are renovating the apartment at the corner of Chesley and Wester. As in the back of they put in some storage. It's one building, and there's 6 doors. So each apartment will have a place for storage. As I say that, when you come up to Jacques Street and Simon Galland Street, so I go up on that street and I shake my head. But where you see the ones that are built with garages, everything's fine. And the moment that you go past the last garage and there's no more garages, it's hellish. And actually, I witnessed something the other day. My Janice and myself, there was a guy in his backyard working on a pickup truck, and he was cutting with torches, oxygen acetylene torches, as if he was in a garage. And that's just in the front yard. The solution for that, and it shouldn't be delayed. It should be done immediately. That the developers who want to build apartments, if they want a building permit, they should provide us with a plan for building some storage. So if you see the 2 big apartment buildings on Chesley, the 90-unit apartment buildings, they have storage units, mini storages. It's very important. People who live there on Simon Galland, they don't have any room to put anything. I really think that the builders, the developers, if they want a building permit, they should come to us with a plan whereby there is storage for their residents. Yes. I'd say that we're revising the municipal plan right now. It's a good discussion to have when the city planners are there. There's a moment for public consultation. There'll be a moment for consultation with council. Take note of that. We're limited right now in terms of what we can do. I will tell you that we're processing files. For example, unsightly premises. It's one-offs, one-by-one basis, when we see that there are files that require our attention based on the powers that we have right now. But obviously, if it's a requirement with for something new, those are one of the comments that you could make during those deliberations. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Arsenault. Councillor Eduardo, did you want to add? Councillor Arsenault, in terms of the question of the use of, well, repairing a car in front of a house in all parts of town, it's not authorized. It's part of the municipal bylaw that we already have. We can send the bylaw enforcement officer in such a situation. If we have a complete, we will intervene in such cases. Thank you. And I'll say it again. We can't. On peut pas. Our bylaw officers does active patrols. If you see something that doesn't look right, we'll send our officers. That's great. Thank you. Councillor Eduardo, Your Worship, I already talked about this one time before. I don't know how to go about it. I would like to have seen a description of the the duties of our employees before our administration from one end to the other. Another thing, we're talking about visiting the YMCA. I'd like to visit floor 3 and 2 and see how things are operating now. Councillors will make budget decisions. The YMCA came first time that we've heard about talk of it. It's in the 5-year plan. It's a project at $100 million. I think it's time to be updated on the various files, the very important files. And I don't know how the other councillors who are new feel. I sometimes feel like I'm in the fog a bit. Well, to react to those facilities, that was planned in our orientation, but it got pretty late. We said that we were going to do the visit, whether it be here or at the multipurpose center or Ondo, the municipal garage in Ohio Road. It's coming. In terms of the duties of staff, it's that's the meeting for September 11th. For the planning, that would be the discussion. That's when discussion will start. It's just that the work will take a bit of time, and if we start in September, the budget will be done, and we won't have our answers to make a final financial decision. The meeting is scheduled for September. The budget will be set in November. If there's something to be fine-tuned in the budgets, we can discuss it then. The other comment, the training that we got on Saturday, it looks like the only right we have is to do a budget, and that's where our policies are. It looks like we don't have anything to say. You know, we're entitled to figure who will be hired. We were entitled to that before. I don't know who let those entitlements pass, but ultimately I know it's the CAO. It's his ship to steer, but we are the ones to steer. But if we don't have the information, it's hard to steer the boat. But it comes back. I understand, but it comes back to our structure and the way that our governance. We have an employee in Saturday's training. It's not necessarily to tell us that we couldn't not that we couldn't do anything. To tell us what we can and can't do. There's not much that we can do to not be in conflict of interest or to go against the code of conduct. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, Councillor Eduardo. So is no one else in terms of reports for the council members? In terms of my own report, it'll be short. I've participated in the opening of the festival. Everyone's really happy that the festival started. I participated in the first edition of the Lobster Cup with the youth under 11 and under 13. Despite the heat, all the young people were happy. They were running around everywhere. I think they had a great weekend. And the organizers were very pleased with the level of participation. There were many teams, teams from PI, for example. It was it immediately adds to the economy of Shediac. I did an interview with Radio Canada Sunday morning about the Pascal Poirier House. I received some comments that people were pleased that we now have a direction for the Pascal Poirier House. And last week I participated in a session of the Regional Service Commission, first working session. They explained all of the departments, and I think that we have a date scheduled for somebody to come from for the Regional Service Commission. The date's not confirmed yet. We will be getting a date. They will come because one of the items I raised is that during our budget, we subscribe to this and that, and I said we approve budgets with amounts that go to the Regional Service Commission. I think there are counselors who will probably be asking me questions around those amounts. So they'll come to us with that. And there was a regular meeting of the Regional Service Commission where Deputy Mayor participated with me. There's not much going on. There will be some changes around Eco 360 that are upcoming. We will have more details later. Thus concludes my report. Are there any questions? Otherwise, we'll go to the motions. First item is around the financial statement. So, Councillor Cormier, would you like to read it? Thank you, Your Worship. Be it resolved that Council approve the consolidated financial statements of the Town of Shediac for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025, as presented. I so move. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Galland. Any questions? All those in favor shall say aye. Against? Nay. Motion carried. Excuse me, I have a comment. Every time we read and you don't touch anything at all, it depends if you're on the app or on. I'm not on the app, and it works. I think it's a recent. I thought maybe you were adding our names to the motion. Maybe it's it. I think that's what it is. Inaudible. Not until we're done. Okay, thank you. I'll try it right now.
9.2 Recreation Center. Thank you, Your Worship. Now you have in your packages, and we received a presentation before the meeting from the YMCA group. Our recommendation would be that the council add that functionality and do a study of the options with the YMCA for the Recreation Center. You also have in your packages a timeline, follow the timeline that's already been approved, just to look at whether in the long term there is a possibility with the Y that this could be a partnership for construction, ownership, operation. Because this obviously has fiscal impacts on the feasibility study that we're doing now. So I want to remind you that we put an amount in the budget to continue our evaluation of the Recreation Center. We had around 500,000 that we put in to continue our taking the steps that we are taking on this project. We are currently doing the work with Colliers, about $150,000 invested. So that leaves us about $350,000 in the budget. So budget point is to take that amount out. Yes, would you like to read this? I will read this, and I have a comment afterwards. 9.2, whereas partnership with the YMCA would provide operational expertise and financial means for the recreation center, that it be resolved that we accept the proposal to include YMCA in the Collier process. Also be it resolved that the amounts be withdrawn from the fund, the infrastructure fund. I here do so propose, seconded by Janice Cormier. From what I read, that we were looking at the YMCA as a partnership. It seemed it looked like there could be two owners and that maybe this could cause problems eventually at some point down the road. But after their presentation, my ideas have changed. My mind has changed, and I think it'll be very advantageous to have them as a partner. What they were offering to the municipality is really incredible. So I 100% behind this motion. Thank you, Councillor Desprez. I have a question. Thank you for your comments, Joa. I 100% agree with you. Question, last paragraph, that the fund be taken, haven't the funds all, are there extra funds or is this part of the funding that was already proposed? This is an additional to the study because I had a discussion with Colliers, and when we saw that the WISE model could be promising, if they go too far ahead and then we bring YMCA into it, then they will have to do the work twice. So it's better to do this analysis at the same time because one will impact the other. I can tell you that when you have a potential marriage like this, you want to include them in the study to make sure that all the impacts on the feasibility of the project are taken into account. How much is the total fund? $500,000. And this fund, this comes out of that fund. We have $350,000 remaining. We've already invested $150,000 with Collier. That's right. We've already spent that much money. The designs, preliminary designs, site evaluations, a lot of things that were included in the Collier study, but this adds something to the feasibility plan. But again, how does it cost more to include the YMCA in it? Or how much more is it going to cost? $29,000 to expand the study. We should have put that in the motion. It's not in the motion, but it is in the submission that you have in your packages. So as long as it stays within the budget envelope, I got no problem with it. Okay, it does. The exact amount is $29,650. Thank you. Councillor Boudreau, Councillor Doiron. I find it tough to make financial decisions in this way. Saturday evening, I opened this. Yesterday, I was trying to open this. Couldn't. Today, I couldn't open it either. I only got the attachment when I arrived. I don't know if it's the same as you, if it's for you. But I can't reopen the attachment, so I would have liked to be able to see this in advance. Could we look at your iPad? It's not the first time this has happened to me. I don't know if it's happening to you guys, but it has happened to me. It wasn't at all. You can always come down to City Hall and Town Hall and read it there. I did get the agenda, but there was no attachment that I could open, or rather, it wouldn't open. It was there, but it wouldn't open. It's PDF. What is it? Maybe you're skipping a step or something. Maybe somebody could help you with that, because everybody else seems to be able to open them. If anybody else had this problem, then maybe we do have a problem with the iPads. But I come to a decision, I make money decisions, and I wasn't able to read it. I'm not all that comfortable with that. I understand.
Donc, on est-tu prêt pour le vote?
Are we ready to vote? One other question then.
C'est pour faire l'étude, pour voir c'est quoi ça impliquerait. On décide pas.
This is to do the study, to see what it would involve. It is not a study that when we have already decided that we're going ahead with it.
J'ai la misère que quelqu'un d'autre appartienne aux assets.
I find it tricky if somebody else shares their assets with us. You know, that could be a problem. There have been previous cases where it was. Well, that's what the whole point of the study is, to try and see what the risks would be. All in favor? Yes? All opposed? Carried. Next item, 9.3. Our electric fleet, our municipal fleet, hybrid and electric vehicles. Good evening, Your Worship, councillors. So, I want to thank you for the shout out to Net Zero. Little brief report, 30 seconds. We had 230 people who answered this survey. So there is participation in our market study. And what's really interesting is that 95% of the respondents said that yes, there is an environmental situation that Net Zero needs to look at. And they see that it is important, or very important, for the municipality to participate in the solution to the problem. It is a genuine situation. So come back to the motion. I think Stephanie said if we have $16 million in assets, and over the coming years, others will have to be purchased. So we're saying that this is an excellent opportunity to replace these vehicles with net zero vehicles, either hybrids or electric, EVs, or using green fuel, biodiesel perhaps. But in order to do it in a smart way, we have to do a study. So we need to hire a company which has experience in these type of studies, and they will tell us whether they will give us a strategy how we would proceed or go about replacing our fleet in a manner that is the most efficient. The study would cost less than $47,000. Or 46 is what we put in. We already have confirmation from for 18,000, sorry, and we also have a confirmation from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, $23,500 also for that study. But that was a COA. The first one was a COA. But the community has to also invest 10%. That's their requirement. So our motion that the motion would be that the council should support that we go ahead with this study. For $4,700 or $47,000, not clear to me. But the funding from the FCM is not yet guaranteed. They're going to look at the application over the next 6-7 months. They're going to make their decisions on which projects are going to be supported. Then it is quite probable, it is possible that they would not give it to us. In that case, the community would have to spend an extra $28,000. So it's so it's 47,000, not 4,700. So that the study would be on renewing or refurbishing our fleet. So this is not new money, right? This is coming out of our existing budget, right? To do this analysis, assuming that the FCM comes on board. And if they don't, then we would have to fund the gap ourselves, the shortfall ourselves. Do you want to read it? Yes, please. Thank you, Your Worship. I think Yves summed it up. I'll read the motion. So, whereas the net zero strategy is identified as among our priorities of the strategic plan from 2025 to 2027, and be it resolved that the municipal council accept this proposal to carry out do a study on the electrification of our municipal fleet and authorize the $4,700. That's because that's the 10% that we're responsible for. Be resolved that where the funding is not obtained from the FCM, that you would authorize an additional amount of up to $23,500 for a maximum contribution of $28,000 by the municipal council. You so proposed, seconded by Councillor McEnroy. Questions? How much? What was the budget for net zero? 150,000. That's basically funded by ACOA and other financial partners almost entirely. But we had to invest also, but a very small amount. But if I'm not mistaken, I think it was around $400,000 that we had for that. That is new money. So that's over and above the $400,000. It's over and above the ACOA, the FCM. So we're studying the recommendations on how to get to net zero, which we want to start with electrification of our fleet of vehicles. We want to see how we want to do that, how we want to go about that. Tom, I don't know if you want to go on, tell us a little bit more about that. But since we came in October, there were certain measures we had to take. Looked at we looked at how we can reach net zero as an organization and as a community. So the municipality has employees. We are a business in a way. And so as a business, how do we personally get to net zero? Because what we want to do, excuse the English, the Anglicism, we want to walk the talk. We don't just want to tell our citizens, oh, get to net zero, but we don't do it. No. So we want to see, and this is low-hanging fruit, right? Electrification of the municipal fleet, because we have to change them out more often than we might perhaps improve buildings. So within 10 years, perhaps certain equipment will have to be replaced. In 3 years, other equipment. The idea is not to change it all, but to replace it all in one shot. But we want to know what we're going to be doing when. We're not experts on this. Maybe we have an engineer here, maybe we have an expert on net zero, but maybe certain equipment is not acceptable for certain operations. So we have to look at the whole strategy. The reality is that we might not ever fully get to 100% electrification, but what is our strategy to offset the carbon that we emit? And so maybe there are other initiatives to offset that. This is just a study. This is to look at the possibilities of equipment chargers, for example. I forgot to mention one thing also. This study is necessary in order to obtain other funds from the FCM. So if we have the study, we can then apply for $10 million with 80% funded at a very low or zero interest loan by the feds. And so that, you see, this is a study which will enable us to develop a strategy, but it's also a study which opens the door to that further funding. See?
Ce nouveau, je sais pas si ça s'appelle une subvention, ce nouveau programme-là, qu'on peut avoir des fonds
That
à cause qu'on
new
fait
program was not there before. Is that the idea? The FCM manages a lot of federal funding on a whole range of initiatives, and the green initiatives are could be vehicle fleets, buildings that go to net zero. There could be there's funding for these things at the national level, which are managed by the FCM. So that's what the federal government does, is they use FCM as the executor of these projects. There are other initiatives as well that are managed, and this gives us access to those funds. Councillor Paul, timeline, when are we going to get this report? If we approve it tonight, it would take 2 to 3 months. And does it include the fire department fleet as well? Yes, but not necessarily. Yes, it will include those vehicles, but it may not say that we should replace them because they are quite expensive. Thank you. Councillor Arsenault, thank you, Your Worship. I have a comment that
correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
So, avant, tu avais des gas pickup trucks.
You had gas pickup trucks and diesel pickup trucks in the past. I don't think there were any studies done on which direction we would go. Would we go with diesel or gas? We simply went ahead and did it. We bought a hybrid. We did our own study, and I think that everybody who bought a hybrid did their own study and bought a hybrid. So, and look how it works. And if it works well, then you buy more. So my question is, why do we, every time I come here, not many times, there's always new studies we have to do, like 30,000, 40,000, 45,000. How come we can't just take that money and spend it, buy the hybrid? And then if it works, buy another one. I'm not sure if that makes any sense to you, but please answer that, please.
I would give you the only answer I can. A lot of those green initiatives, there are grants that are accessible either through the federal or provincial government. There are certain, how might I say it? I also have an electric vehicle that's fully electrical. I've done my own analysis and my own studies around it, but I can tell you that I did my analysis based on what would be less costly. I analyzed costs, but I didn't analyze, was I going to haul a camper? Was I going to clear the snow on the street? Was I going to be mowing lawns? It's more specialized in terms of research. There are financial savings to look into. We have to look into not only offsetting the price of gas and electricity, but looking at the cost of one piece of equipment rather than another piece of equipment. Assume that the study will be accompanied by a recommendation based on certain makes and models. The market is quite new in New Brunswick, but worldwide, green initiatives have been existing in some jurisdictions for many years. We talk of biodiesel. There are states in the United States where there's machinery that runs on biodiesel. We can do those studies, but we're less able and qualified to do those studies. If the council wants to do a one-off, we can certainly do that. We're just saying what we recommend to get there faster and to be best prepared. Thank you. Inaudible. Yes, it's a great question. I also own an EV, and I did my own research and studies. A very important point. If we don't do a study with an engineering team that is qualified, it closes the door to future funds. So if we do our own study, yes, we would be saving that amount of money and we can get there a bit faster. But afterwards, we can apply for funding with Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And secondly, as Yves was saying, I tried to do some research when it comes to far more complex vehicles like fire trucks, heavy equipment. It's very complicated, and the options are a lot less obvious than the hybrid options that you generally see. Councillor Duaron, I was part of 3 different associations. FCM, it's hard to believe that the FCM, with all the towns and cities that are part of that organization, that they haven't already done that study. And I thought the FCM was something that do you go talk to another manager or mayor and they talk to each other? Talking about studies and studies. We're part of those associations. They have done studies. I'm sure that there are studies that have been made. There must have been some that have been made. I find it we still don't have enough money for this or that, but we have money to do another project. But we don't have money for this year because we can't fix the outside part of the surface of the outside ring. I have a hard time with this. That amount will go directly into an account. We're not spending. We already have a budget to do studies and analyses, and that amount will be taken from that budget that is allocated to do study analyses. If I understand correctly, if we do the study in-house, or it wouldn't qualify to seek out more funding from the FCM. We can check with the FCM, but if the study's been done, for municipalities, I can tell you, the FCM doesn't have the mandate to study these types of things. The FCM's mandate is to support those who want to do it. For the electrification of a fleet, the Green Municipal Fund, they finance plans, studies. They even finance acquiring plots of land for water and sewer. They do a lot, but it's up to the entity, the local entity, to do their own analysis. It's not up to the FCM to do the analysis for the industry. To my knowledge, FCM has not done any of those studies. I might be wrong, but to my knowledge, it's always like that. That's the way that the FCM has operated in the last 10 or 12 or 13 years in the municipal world. They are partners to municipalities in terms of doing studies, assessments, analyses, acquisitions in a whole host of files, in particular green initiatives. So they receive money from the federal government. They receive the federal government, and they manage it, and they manage the money. Absolutely, it's no different than the provincial government that receives gas tax money, which is now the Community Development Fund. That's managed by the province. So the FCM receives a certain amount of money to manage grants and funds for many different projects. For example, public transportation is something to do as well. Green funds, water, sewers. This is something that many files that are municipal jurisdiction that the provincial and federal government don't want to manage themselves. So they other partners like the FCM and other associations do it for them. Are there other questions or comments? So let's move to the vote. It's moved by Councillor Desprez, seconded by Councillor McEnroy. All those in favor, say aye. Against, nay. One against. Thank you. So now we're moving to circular materials. It's an amendment. I will present that file. As you may know, maybe not, there's a provincial responsibility now for those who produce a lot of the material goods that we buy on the shelves, be it paper, something that's recyclable. The industry is now responsible to see to its end of life for these products. There's a contract that was granted provincially to Circular Materials. And Circular Materials is responsible to see to that management. So essentially, most of the thing that you see in the bag and regularly, the industry is now responsible to see to its disposal, because we're responsible for collecting the garbage of our residents. Circular Materials pays us to collect, to pick up those recyclables, and we bring them to the site where they are recycled, and Circular Materials sees to its final disposal. We have a contract coming to the term. There's a provincial regulation that existed up to 2027. It's basically Circular Materials wants to extend that by 1 additional year so that we continue to pick up the items that are currently in the blue bag, and they want to continue to pay us for an additional period of 1 year. That is why we need an extension to the existing contract to extend it by 1 year that would allow the municipality to continue to receive that amount. To receive that amount to collect the blue bags. If I'm not mistaken, sorry to put you on the spot, we're talking about an amount of roughly $130,000 a year payable to the municipality to pick up. Everyone throughout the province has the same amount. And I do believe it's $31 per. In 28.56 is the rate with the fuel surcharge. I think there's an educational component in there as well. Maybe we don't have the educational component. Eco 360. Anyway, it's about 31 cents, but to have an extension by 1 year to continue to receive that amount. It would require a resolution from council to sign and get an extension. Councillor Gadon, would you like to read it? Yes, Madam Mayor. Whereas Circular Materials Atlantic wishes to amend the agreement originally signed with the town of Shediac. Whereas this amendment consists of extending the statement of work until December 31st, 2027, be it resolved that the Municipal Council approve the amendment to the agreement as presented. I so move. Moved by Councillor Gadon, seconded by Councillor Desprez. Any questions? Are you ready for the vote? All those in favor shall say aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Next item, appointments to committees. When we done the appointments to committees at our first meeting, the Sant Courage slipped. I didn't assign or ask anyone to be part of the Courage Center. That's why we have a nomination now for the steering committee of the Recreation Center. The CAO and myself talked about it. We came to the decision that we're going to add a counselor as a liaison on that steering committee. I spoke to Deputy Mayor Boudreau. He's accepted. So I would need a motion from the floor to that effect. Councillor Cormier would like to move it. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Be it resolved that the members of council, following members who named the council, Chairman Gallant for the Courage Center, Paul Boudreau to the steering committee of the Recreation Center. I so move, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Janice Cormier, seconded by Councillor Leo Duaro. Any questions on the motion? Councillor Duaro? No? Okay, fine. So no questions. All those in favor shall say aye. Against? Nay? Motion carried. So the last item on the agenda before adjourning, notices of motion. Councillor Cormier, you want to make a notice of motion? Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a notice of motion for the next meeting to allow me the authorization that I be absent from town beyond 2 months, 2 months and 2 weeks. And I'd like to have a motion from council so they can decide. And I'm planning on attending meetings virtually during my absence from town. So that would be brought to the August meeting. It's great. Thank you. Councillor Boudreau, Deputy Mayor Boudreau, I could bring the motion to access to the sports field for the notice of motion. Well, I'm trying. Yes, I have a notice of motion. Thank you. Just ask for staff administration to look for solutions for the access route to the sports field. So that do I contact the clerk for the details that we take note of it? It would be the July 14th meeting. I didn't know I could do that. Okay, thank you very much. So next meeting, it would be July 14th at 6 p.m. Be our last meeting. If there's no other emergency meetings or special meetings, we come back in August. Gives us some time for some vacation. Moved by Councillor Gallant. Adjournment is moved by Councillor Gallant. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. And for those of you who are on vacation, take advantage of it with your families and friends. Inaudible. Have a great evening.